Hello and welcome to Let Me Bore You to Sleep. My name is Jason Newland. Please only listen when you can safely close your eyes. And my website is jasonnewland.com. I have a YouTube channel as well, Let Me Bore You to Sleep, Jason Newland, where my videos are uploaded every day. I have podcasts. A podcast, Let Me Bore You to Sleep, which is on all the major podcasts as well. And there are 6 versions of this recording on there. 1 with music, without music, and then 5 and 10 hours with both. Yay. Ruby is on TikTok watching me, saying hi, I'm first. Hi, Ruby. Ruby, you asked a question yesterday about have I had any weird dreams about career. So I can't let anyone on here to talk or anything, but I can still answer questions while I'm on here. I have to give that some thought. I've had dreams about when I was working. Like when I've had jobs in the past, I've dreamt about the job that I had, if that makes sense. So, but I've also, because I don't work anymore, so I have these dreams sometimes when, and this is quite a regular dream, this is terrible really, I have a dream where I'm in a call centre, which is what I used to do. I used to sell car insurance, and I worked at 3 different insurance companies. And those were my 3 of my last 3 jobs. Well, yeah, kind of, pretty much. I was also a counsellor as well. But, so, I went to university. But I have this dream where I'm sitting in the office and I've not logged on to the thing, you know, with an insurance company, probably with most companies, you have to log in to the system so that they know you're there, and then you can gain access to your portal or whatever it is that you're working on, you know. And I had this recurring dream where I'm just sitting at this computer and I've forgotten the login codes to get in, and I know there's like a logbook inside the cabinet, so I think I must have had time off work, maybe because I've had a few times when I've been ill and I couldn't go in due to mental health issues. So I'm sitting there and I'm not doing anything. And I'm talking to the other staff members, and I'm just worried that I'm going to get found out that I'm not doing anything. And I'm sitting there just chatting and pretending, I like pretending to type. Talking into headphone. And then I leave, because I realise I can't stand being there. And I leave. Well, I go to get a coffee and I get out of the building. Then I remembered that my coat and all my stuff's still in the office. And I'm like, oh. I mean, I had a dream last night. This isn't related to working, but it was one of the weirdest dreams I've had for a long time. So I was travelling. I don't know where I was travelling. I don't know where I was, but I was with people. And I had Vinny with me, and we were in this one particular place which was kind of like icy, but it was the most beautiful scenic view that I've ever seen in my life. Never seen anything like it. It was almost like I can't even explain it really. It was beyond explanation, or beyond my explanation anyway. I don't know where I was going. I don't know what it was. We were just travelling. It was a weird dream. But we got stuck there, me and a couple of other people, and Vinny. So we got stuck there. Sometimes in my dreams, Vinny and Andre swap roles, because Andre was my ferret. So sometimes he's a ferret, sometimes he's Andre. It's weird, like my companion or whatever. And in this dream, we go to this, like a hotel, but they're very unfriendly. So we go in anyway. They give us a room. We decide we're just gonna, because we were all wet. So we decided we'd stay in a room and we'd just stay in one room overnight or during the day or whatever. And then it started turning weird, which I can't really go into on here. But the people I was with started to get together with the ladies that were in the hotel, that were working in the hotel or that owned the hotel. And it was really, no one wanted me. I think at one point I said, what about me? I mean, even Vinny was getting some. And that was with a penguin though, so possibly. So, I've got to say happy birthday to Georgia. So there was one point where I'm trying to figure out if I've got enough money to get the train back to where I want to get to, and then all I've got to do is get that train to London, and then get that train to Stratford, because for some reason I'm still living in Stratford, even though I'm not. And there was so many weird components to this dream, and it went on for quite a while. And I got no idea why I was dreaming about it, because I wasn't watching anything weird on the television before I went to bed. In fact, I was watching boxing all night, from 7 onwards. I was watching boxing, went to bed. So that's all I watched. Maybe watching all those sweaty men punching each other. I don't know, it's weird, but very strange dream. I had another dream, which was weird, because I lost my best friend 2 years ago, who lived downstairs. I had a dream that me and him were in the garden, just chatting like we used to do. And one of the neighbours looked out the window, who's on the bottom floor, who he used to be really close to as well. I speak to him as well, and he said to me, "Oh, wait a second, I've got to go and let him know that I'm not here anymore." I used that as a term. And then I woke up, and it was so freaky. It was weird stuff. But going back to dreams when I've been working, I worked in this pub. I've had about 50 odd jobs. So hi to everyone that's come on here. Hi onto TikTok. I was working in this pub when I was 18, and I didn't like it. I didn't really like being around drunk people, because I found it very difficult to kind of work with that in that environment. Do people forget they have a chat when they do these? Nunu asks. Well, this is me recording my podcast, so sometimes I will kind of acknowledge who's on here, but this is me recording my podcast, so I'm not actually the TikTok is, I don't want to say secondary, but the main thing is the video that I'm filming, the audio recorder for my audio podcast, and TikTok. I thought just film it live for anyone that wants to just be involved, really. So I try not to ignore anyone and say hi, but I can't keep having long conversations and stuff. I mean, so far, this podcast has been shaped by Ruby talking about dreams. So, in a way, the TikTok is shaping the podcast. Does that make sense? Now, I've done live broadcasts on Facebook and used that as the actual podcast in the past. So, you know, it varies. So, it's quite warm in here. I got the window open. Is Vinny eating his dinner? No, still not eating his dinner. He only eats his dinner generally at night. Doesn't like to eat it during the day for some reason. I don't know why. So, I mean, watching me do this on TikTok isn't necessarily going to be everyone's favourite thing to do. But, you know, there's quite a few people on TikTok that do just completely ignore the screen, and they'll maybe be playing a video game. You can't see the screen of the video, so you're just watching them, quite often in revealing clothing. Apparently, I've not watched, of course. But, you know, so not everybody gets a big, like hugely involved as far as conversing. But I thought this might be mildly interesting for people that watch my podcasts on YouTube or listen to my podcasts on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or my website, to see kind of how this progresses live, because although it's a sleep recording if you're watching on a video or listening on the podcast, if you're watching on TikTok, it's not a sleep recording, because at any second Vinny could start barking, or the doorbell could go, or someone could start a lawnmower in the garden. Now, I'll edit that out on the video and the podcast, but I can't edit it out on the thing. And I don't have anyone join live when I'm doing a podcast. So, sorry, Zach. So, when I did enjoy, I invited people live for half an hour after I did. No, actually, after I watched the boxing yesterday. Can I talk about the boxing? I need to talk about the boxing. It wasn't last night's boxing, but it was early hour boxing in America. And I watched it when I got up this morning. So there's a boxer, you might have seen it online, I don't know. But there's a boxer called Big Baby Miller. And when he comes to this country, he was supposed to have a fight with Anthony Joshua to fight for his world title back about 8 years ago. And they both squared up to each other, and he pushed Joshua like Joshua was nothing, because he's a massive bloke, and he pushed... You wouldn't imagine many people would be able to push Anthony Joshua away, because he's a huge block as well, isn't he? And every time he comes to this country, he's like really friendly to the press, but then when he gets to another boxer, he's really kind of aggressive and tries to get into a fight with them and stuff, which he did with Fabio Wardley, but then he pulled out of that fight. This was last year. So I've seen him fight a few times. Anyway, if you don't know what's going to happen next, it's actually hilarious, and you need to check this out online, because it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a boxing ring in my life. Like, I mean, ever. So, Big Baby Miller is... I mean, he's like over 300 pounds. I think there were over 600 pounds between the two boxers. 600 stone, something like that. So, Big Baby Miller comes in, just like normal The other boxers there, just like normal, and they're fighting each other. And I think at the end of round 2, something starts flapping on his head, and his wig comes off. So Big Baby Miller is wearing a wig. At first, it just slides up, his hair slides up, and then there's actually a point where it's actually flapping on top of his head like that, and the audience and the crowd are just, honestly, they're creased over laughing. Talk about humiliation. I mean, this is like a big tough guy that wants everyone to think that he's like a bad man and all that stuff. And why would you wear a wig, a toupee, in the ring when you know you're going to get punched in the head? And it wasn't just that, you know, people put their gloves on and stuff like that. It's like, unless you've literally got super glue, which would be extremely dangerous. And I wonder how many other boxers wear wigs in the ring. Wow. I've never seen that before. Never ever. And probably never see that again. So what he took it nicely. He didn't, I mean, some people might just walk out of the ring out of embarrassment. But then he wouldn't have got paid, so I guess he's not going to do that. When he went to the corner, he basically took it off, smiled, and chucked it into the audience, or into the crowd, and then fought the rest of the fight, which went the distance. And it's basically just a whole completely bald patch all the way around, and hair around the side. And he was saying something about how he used some shampoo and all his hair fell out a couple of days earlier, which doesn't sound realistic to me. It could be, but... And I wonder, has he always been bald? Has he always had a toupee on when he's fought? I feel like I want to watch all his other fights to see whether or not he's like, there's a little bit of movement in the hair, or if because he did keep going like that, you know, so obviously to try and keep it on. I was like, why? So it was so funny. I'll be honest, like, throughout the day, every now and then I just think about it and I just giggle to myself, because it's something that you might expect with someone like me, you know, if I was big on YouTube and some other old man wanted to have a fight, and you know, we got in there and my toupee fell off or whatever, you know, all flapped around. I mean, I might do that on purpose, but not like a professional boxer who probably looks better without hair than with hair. You know, if anything, he looks younger, bald, than he does. I've seen him with hair and without hair. It's a personal opinion, but he looks younger. And no one's ever going to call him baldy, are they? Because he's like the size of a house, and he's a professional heavyweight boxer, so he can kind of do what he wants, or at least he could. But now, how is he ever going to? No one's going to forget that. See, before he was known as because he failed some tests, you know, after fights and before fights, in fact. So they do blood and urine tests and stuff like that to make sure that there's no sports enhancing substances. Is that the correct way to say it? And he's been found guilty of that, I think, a few times. That's why the Anthony Joshua fight was pulled off. And I don't know if that's why the Fabio Wardley one was as well. I'm not sure. Probably not, because he's fought straight away. So I think there's usually like a 2 or 3 year ban and stuff. So he's never. So people remembered him for that. I think in this country they remembered him for pushing Anthony Joshua, trying to punch, or he did slap Fabio Wardley at a press conference on the football ground, Ipswich football ground, last year. But the crowd, got in the way, all the people got in the way, so they couldn't fight. And he was accusing Fabio Wardley of making a song about him. And Fabio was like, "What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. What are you literally talking about?" So, yeah, that was weird. So he's not going to be remembered for slapping or pushing Anthony Joshua. He's no longer going to be remembered for being a enhancing substance user for improved sports. I don't know what's the right. I don't know. Whatever it is, I don't want to say the word. Enhancement. He's going to be remembered for that wig flapping in the wind with every punch. Literally, went like that. Can't see the top of my head on the video. I'm not saying it's the only funny thing I've ever seen in the ring. I mean, it was Riddick Bowe fighting Evander Holyfield. I think it was them two fighting, and a paraglider, like with a motorised thing, flew into the ring mid-fight. And there was another time when I think it was a Riddick Bowe fight, and he was fighting Anthony Galotta. And Anthony Galotta kept doing low punches. And I think Riddick Bowe's mum went up to Anthony Galotta's corner and started hitting him with her shoe, which caused a riot in the ring. Now, the weird thing about that, Andrew Galotta, he fought Riddick Bowe twice, and he got disqualified twice for low blows. But if you take the low blows away, he was beating up Riddick Bowe twice. He put him on the floor. He was winning, completely winning. So if he hadn't done the low blows, he would have been world champion. But he had to learn, it's a way. Imagine getting twice, 2 times in a row. I don't think I know anyone that's done that. To get suspended or to get, kicked out. Wow. So Chelsea says, "Hey, Hottie." Hey, thank you. The boxing last night was really good. Really, really, really good. And the boxing this morning, apart from the heavyweight fight, was really good. So it's a good, it's almost like a whole day, because I only finished watching the early morning fight, because that went on for about 6 hours. So I finished that a couple of hours ago. I watched it in 2 parts, because just too much, really. And the final fight, I won't tell you who won, but the final fight was like one-sided, very, very one-sided. So that's what I did. That was my Saturday night and Sunday, because it's now 26 minutes past 5. It's also dark outside, and this is, yeah, it's almost like I spent the weekend watching boxing in a way. But Josh Kelly last night in England, in Newcastle actually, so good. I mean, the speed of that man, the speed was phenomenal, and he won the world title. If you were waiting to see, sorry if I spoiled it, but yeah, so fast, and deservedly so. It was phenomenal. And part of the reason I'm pleased that he won the world title is because my friend Luke downstairs, his favourite boxer was Josh Kelly. He loved Josh Kelly. And we watched a few of his fights together. He was an Olympic silver medalist, I think. Was it Olympics? He was Olympic medalist anyway. And he was like a future star and everything. And he took a loss. So he kind of put his career backwards for a bit. But he was like on the way to fighting, to being like a huge star. And he's so talented. It's ridiculous how quick he is. And he was going against someone that was, on paper, really more likely to beat him because of the heavy hands and all that stuff. But he still beat this bloke. And it was brilliant. So good. I was so pleased. I think he won. Did he win? I just got to like... I got to kind of... yeah, he did win. So I'm getting a little bit muddled up between all the different fights I watched. But he's so good. So good. And... I mean, he's from Sunderland, but he was fighting in Newcastle. And, I mean, Sunderland is pretty much... I remember when I lived in Newcastle, someone was trying to explain to me what Sunderland was. And I said, it's Newcastle. He said, no, it's not. But it is, but it's not. And I was like, but it's Newcastle. It's not. No, it's Sunderland. But it is part of the city of Tyne and Wear, which is where Newcastle is. So it's kind of, I don't know if there's some kind of rivalry or something like that. I'm not sure. It's 10 miles southeast of Newcastle upon Tyne. Just looking on Wikipedia. 10 miles away. So technically, yes, fair enough, it's not Newcastle because you got one town and another town. 10 miles is a distance, isn't it? It's not a huge distance, but it's still is a gap. Yet I think most people living in the south wouldn't be able to tell a difference in accent, because it's a very similar northeastern accent. And I lived in Newcastle, but maybe I also lived in Sunderland as well. I don't know. It's too long ago to remember. Too long ago to remember. Remember. Oh, yesterday, it was Friday actually. I didn't do a recording yesterday. It was Boxing Day, wasn't it? Every Saturday's Boxing Day for me. Hopefully it will be for the next few weeks. And the Friday's video, it took so long to upload so long to process. I'm talking like 15 hours or something like that. And then when it actually processed and it was on YouTube and I checked it, and it didn't work. Like, it played, but parts of it were frozen, parts of it was there was no sound. And I'm like, what's going on? Why? Beck Mansharoff says tomorrow's a day of retribution. Brilliant. So it's kind of really weird that, because it's lucky I checked it, because otherwise it would have been on YouTube. People would have been clicking on it, listening for the first 7 minutes, and then suddenly no sound. And then it'd fast forward it, and then it just freeze. Now, I thought it's because YouTube hadn't processed it, but it wasn't. I'd done something wrong on my side. So what I did is I had to delete it and then re-edit it, start all from scratch again, and then upload it again, but at a lower level of spec. So instead of being ultra high, it's just like normal 4K. So what I'm thinking of doing from now on is just having the recordings, the videos at maybe just normal 4K, maybe even 1080, like, because the time it takes is ridiculous, like really ridiculous. It's like takes forever and forever. So Jack says, nice spectacles, use specimen. Thank you. So that says, not called a specimen. When I think of a specimen, I think of like when you give a urine or a sample or blood sample or poo sample. That's what I think of when I think of specimen. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's really a compliment, to be honest. It's been raining all day, and I went out with Vinny this morning, and it was mild rain. It was raining, but it was very mild, so I didn't really get wet. But the second time I went out, I was getting wet, and he got as far as the park. In fact, he wouldn't even go into the park. He started walking back, and I'm thinking, fair enough, he doesn't want to be in the rain, he wants to go home. But then he started loitering on the grass. So he wasn't in a hurry to go home. For some reason he didn't want to go into the park. So I thought, maybe he's wanting to do a poo, wants to go to a toilet. And he's just waiting for his, waiting for it to peak, waiting, to lay some cable, and nothing. He just looked around, didn't seem bothered. And then a couple of dog walkers came and said hello. So he was licking that dog's face. So he's been really friendly to that dog. But earlier on, this morning when I took him out, I was talking to, he saw two dogs, he was fine. In fact, he barked at one dog that he's fine with until I said hello to the person the dog was with, and he's like, oh, okay. It's almost like he forgot he knew the dog. And then we said hello to a little dog that we see regularly. She's so cute, this little thing. And Vinny loves her. He's like, this tiny little thing. And he starts barking towards this dog that's walking towards us. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is an opportunity to use my new technique, because I got a muzzle for him. It wasn't for this particular thing, but I got it because he had something stuck in his paws a couple of weeks ago, and he wouldn't let me get to his paws. He wouldn't allow it to me. He wouldn't allow me to do it. So I thought, well, I'll get myself a muzzle. I'll get him a muzzle, rather. Not to get myself a muzzle. And that way he can't bite me, because he hates being... He just doesn't like not having control, I think. Well, I haven't had to use it because he's been fine as far as the paws go. But I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll take it out with me, and if he starts barking at a dog, I'll put the muzzle on him, because I noticed that he didn't like having the muzzle on, and he just stood there. Because I tested it on him, I wanted to see how he reacted with it on, and he didn't like having it on. It doesn't hurt him or anything, he just doesn't like it. So I thought, I'll use that technique next time he starts barking at a dog. Which is what I thought, oh, I've got an opportunity. So I put it on him, upside down, so that didn't really work. I didn't turn him upside down. The thing was upside down, so literally it wasn't really being a muzzle, it was just something that fell off. Then I put it on the right way. I had to take my gloves off to do that. All the time he's barking. And then once the thing's on, he's still barking. But he's even more aggressive than he normally is. Like he's like, really showing his teeth. I pick him up, thinking that, well, I don't know why I thought that would help, because he doesn't like that, but... And then he was like, really, like, yeah, like trying to bite me, and that's not what he's like normally. So that muzzle brought the worst out on him. See, oh, this is lovely. Our Life posted something here. I don't know who you are, like person, put like as a name, but the name on the thing is Our Life. Every day I listen to you, Jason, on Spotify. Always great content. Thank you. Warning, permanent ban will ensure if live video does not end within 5 minutes. A permanent ban? What's that all about? A permanent ban will ensure if live video does not end within 5 minutes. So if someone called themselves Notification and using this just to mess with people, that's what I'm figuring has happened. And if it hasn't happened and I got banned, it doesn't matter anyway, because I know I'm not doing anything inappropriate, so hey. So it looks to me like it's Notification. They've used the bell as a picture, and they've used the word notification instead of a name, and then they put warning. So Our Life said, just a troll account saying that, ignore it. Thank you. Poppy says it's just a troll, ignore it. Thanks, Poppy. See, I've got some people watching out, so that's nice. Thank you, I appreciate that. I think when I first started going on TikTok a couple of weeks ago, it's only been a couple of weeks really, 3 weeks, I would have seen that and thought, oh no. But, and I think people can complain and stuff about people on here, but I've seen stuff, because I've done a bit of research, and I've seen stuff that where I saw Ian Lee. He used to be a TV presenter and a radio DJ on Talk Radio, I think. I don't know if he still does that, but he was on TikTok last night, and he was just swearing the whole time, telling people to go away, with swear words and being, I mean, some of it's quite funny actually, but I don't know if that's his persona now. And I thought, well, I don't do that. I don't even swear on here. I never swear on a podcast. At least I don't mean to. I might have said the odd word by accident. And I'm not saying I don't swear in real life. Actually, it's weird. My friend came round yesterday, my neighbour, and he knows I do this stuff. I've known him for probably 7-8 years, something like that. So he knows I do this, but he doesn't really. A lot of people everyone I know knows that I do podcasts and stuff, but they don't really know what it is because I don't tell them. I mean, some people think the podcast is on YouTube where you talk to another person, and that is kind of how podcasts have become in some ways. So for me, it's not about that. For me, podcasting is the audio, like on Spotify or wherever, whatever podcast app. That's to me still podcasts. But now I'm videoing it for YouTube. So, but I don't interview people. There's not more than one person on here. Actually, I've not interviewed, but I've done podcasts with other people 3 times or 4 times, I think. And one was Stop Reading from the Screen, says someone who's posted about 7,000 times. Please, okay, someone's asked me a question. Sorry, I forgot to scroll down. So here's a question from Our Life. For Q&A Friday, what moment quietly changed the direction of your life? Okay, I'll answer that. I'll answer that now. So I know it's not Q&A Friday, but I'll answer that now. It's fine. Because I'm quite happy to take questions when I'm doing a podcast, and then that'll give me a bit of direction maybe, or change the direction I'm going. Because when I start this recording, or start the video, there is no direction. The whole point really, for me, is it's non-directionless. Non-directionless, but hopefully relaxing. That's kind of hopefully. So I can do that. I realise you don't want to possibly don't want to say your name on here, but maybe send me a text and just say what your name is, just so I can. Or if you're on my Facebook group, if you'd like to join my Facebook group, which is Jason Newland's Boring Group on Facebook, or you can contact me on my website, just so I know who I've answered a question to, really. But Our Life. I probably could click on it. I don't know. Click on it. Anyway, I'm going to answer your question. What moment quietly changed the direction of your life? There's probably a few. But there's a few. There's a few. So, depends how far back we want to go. I mean, I don't know if it would be a quiet moment, if I'm honest. A moment that quietly changed the direction. Okay, so I guess so many things. My life, especially as a kid, took pretty extreme directions. As an adult, I would say I started, this is about 97, late 97, something really something happened within the family, like really big, like huge thing, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And then I started to seek therapy, and I mean, this was like the beginning of my self-development, maybe not the beginning, but it's like almost, I started reading self-help books for the first time. I used to read Buddhist books and Zen books, which was kind of self-help in a way, but these were specifically self-help. And listening to self-help audios. So this was the very last part, like September onwards, 1997. And then that kind of led me to Hypnosis, which was 1998. I bought my first 2 hypnosis books. And I think then that led to me getting interested in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And I think that whole self-development, or at least trying to figure out who I was as a person. I mean, it wasn't the first, I mean, I say I was doing that all the way through my 20s. I used to write journal. I had a journal from the age of 18, and I was writing how I was feeling and trying to figure out why I was feeling that way, not knowing that I had bipolar, not knowing that I had a personality disorder. And so I was just like trying to figure out why things were so difficult, dealing with people and stuff like that. And so I guess I had already started the journey, but I think in 97 I realised that I had no choice but to really look into it, because I was on shaky ground. Like, I just didn't really know what to do next, really. And got into hypnosis, so that kind of led me in that direction. But one of the biggest pivotal things is, you know, although I was learning hypnosis and I was studying it, I wasn't doing it. So Hunter Muir says, "Grandad, what are you doing on TikTok?" Well, Hunter, you're 5 years old. What are you doing? Why aren't you in bed by now? It's nearly 6 o'clock. Hope your mummy and daddy don't find out, because I'll put you on the naughty step. So I think I was I didn't really know where I was going, but so that helped me move forward. But then in 2005, so I'd got into Buddhism, like properly into it, learning to meditate, going on some retreats, being around Buddhists, feeling that I was perhaps becoming a bit nicer as a person, a bit softer. And then in 2005, or at the beginning of 2006, my girlfriend and I, the relationship came to an end. And I had all this energy, because I was still young, I was 35, so still relatively young and energetic, and I had this energy. But it wasn't necessarily positive energy, but it was energy nevertheless, and it needed to go somewhere. And I was sitting at home, I was living in a Buddhist community at the time, and I decided that I was going to start a free chronic pain service, which I'd already tried to do 2 years earlier, but it didn't succeed, which was just involving me going around people's houses initially. Then I got a room, rented a room, and just helping people to relax so that the chronic pain would relax, and doing some visualization techniques, stuff like that. I mean, I tried to do it in 2004. It bombed, nothing. And then 2006, I relaunched it, built a website, all that stuff. And for some reason, it really took off. My left eyelid's been flickering for the last few days. I think I'm eating too many bananas. I don't know if that's a thing. And 2006, I suddenly, because I had a job that I was actually quite liked. It was in a call centre, but it was listening to other people's calls and marking whether they did the job right. And I was quite good at that, because I was good at noticing things, noticing when people were doing things wrong, patterns. I found it very easy. And yeah, so I kind of still had energy at the end of the day of doing that. Instead of when I was doing sales, I was exhausted and I didn't want to do anything. You know, once I'd done the sales all day, I just wanted to go home and do nothing. And so what I did is I printed loads of leaflets out, I put newspaper adverts, I built a website which is called helpwithpain.co.uk, something like that. And I launched it in I say a big way, but I was going around every day posting leaflets for people's doors during my lunch time, my lunch break, after work, during the weekends. I even had a few people help me do it. And it took off. And it was free. It's a free service. And I ended up being in the newspaper, on the radio, locally, and things were going really well. And at the same time, I think probably maybe a couple of weeks into doing that, I decided I want to do group sessions. And so I contacted a bunch of charities. One got back to me, and it was an alcohol charity called Norcas. And this was in Ipswich, Suffolk. And Norcas, I had an interview with them, and it was free. It was just me volunteering my time, but they were asking me questions, and I said, the best thing to do really, because I knew I had to have a criminal check anyway. That was standard, so that would take a couple of weeks to do. So anything I say in the interview is not going to make any difference. If I had a criminal record, I wouldn't be allowed to be there, I think. Yeah, I think so. And which I didn't. So that was before the armed robbery. And I said to them, well, you can ask me about myself and all that stuff, really, but the best way for you to find out if I'm any good at this is by actually doing it right now. Which I think surprised them. And I said, look, if I can relax all of you, because I think there's like 3, and I'll get some more of your staff in here as well, if they're not working, if they've got the time, and I'll just do a relaxation session for all of you. Bearing in mind I'd never done a group session in my life. Ever. I could just said in my life, but yeah, never done that before. I've never really gone into the volunteering bit, have I? I've talked about the chronic pain free service, but I don't think I've ever really gone into detail about the doing the voluntary work at the charities. So anyway, I'm there and I do this relaxation session with about 4 or 5 members of staff, And they're like, wow. I don't know if they said wow. They weren't jumping around doing cartwheels and setting off fireworks and, carrying me on their shoulders. It wasn't quite that much of a wow experience. But it did kind of go well. So I started off doing I had a group on a Monday night, just once a week, and it's for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and with people with alcohol issues. And they'd come in, and I'd had a course. It was a 6-week course. So I did that. It wasn't just relaxation, it was also other things to help people to deal with not drinking and other things like that. And then I ended up doing a group relaxation session. I did that at the end, so I did like half an hour at the end. That was their favourite part. So I started just doing that on a Monday and having people come. And so I got a bigger group coming along every Monday to just have the relaxation session for an hour. And then I went part-time. So this was, before that I got, so I was dealing with them, and then I went into the Evolution shop, which was the Buddhist shop that I used to work. So I still knew the Buddhists in there. And they said, this bloke came in looking for you. I said, what? They said, yeah, he knew that you were associated with the Buddhist centre upstairs. He knew you come here, and he knows that you do you do group sessions at Norcas. Can you contact him? So it ended up that I'd been headhunted, which sounds a weird word, doesn't it? But I'd been headhunted by a drug rehab centre, rehabilitation place called Iceni, which is a very famous place in that part of the country, actually, Iceni. And it was just for voluntary, just to do what I'm already doing. So I was asked you to say happy birthday to Poppy. Happy birthday, Poppy. So I went along to that, and I said, to make this a little bit easier, let's just do exactly the same thing as before. So I had 2 people interviewing me. I said, well, it'd be easier if we just do it. So if you want to grab a few people, because there was also volunteers there, so if you want to grab a few people, just bring them in and we'll just do a relaxation session so you can see what I do or experience what I do. And they were happy, and so I started being there, I think, once a week. Maybe it was a Wednesday night or something, I don't know. And then in September 2006, I went part-time in my job because I'd been, I couldn't work full-time anymore, so I went part-time. So I increased my sessions, so I was doing, I think, 2 sessions at Norcas, 2 sessions at Iceni in a week, maybe more, but I think it was at least 2 at each one. So this all kind of evolved into what I'm doing now, if that makes sense. So early on, just after I started doing the pain relief stuff, I decided, because I'd already done this before, I'd made recordings for myself. I'd made a pain relief recording for my nan, hypnosis recording. I think I did one for my auntie. So I kind of I did a few relaxation recordings for me back in 2002 or 2003. And I thought, I wonder. I didn't scratch my neck when I said it, but I wonder if. So a happy face says your or rainbow. There's no name there, but your voice makes me sleepy. Thank you. It's a very boring voice, isn't it? What was I saying? Yeah. I started thinking to myself, because I remember being in my room. It was very wooden. There was a lot of wood. So it was a little bit echoey, to be fair. But all I had was a webcam, a laptop,